Good morning. It is a Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I am Glenn Clark. He's Griffin. Orioles winners once again last night. Nice thing when they decide to score runs in the series openers. I'm no expert, but I would just suggest maybe scoring runs in the next two games as well. That would be good, as opposed to maybe what they did in the next two games against Tampa. I'm hoping that they learned from that mistake and that will be spread out. But boy, it was a nice night last night. We'll talk about that this morning. Talk about the Orioles in general on a Tuesday edition of the program. Coming up in a few minutes, our buddy Jake Mintz, from Cespedes Family Barbecue, now at Fox Sports. He was very emotional about the Orioles dealing away Trey Mancini. We're going to check in with him now a couple weeks removed. I guess he was away. See if maybe he's in a better place with the Orioles having played better since that point. Later on in the program, Rex Hoggard from the Golf Channel is going to join us. News this morning, BMW Championships coming back to Baltimore, coming back to Caves Valley in 2025. And I'd like to hope by the 2025, this whole golf thing's been figured out. Whatever's going to happen, it's happened. It's been figured out, and everybody's playing. All the golfers are a part of it. But it was an amazing event. I'm not, you know me, I'm not a golf person at all, but I went out last year with my father, sat on the 16th green, the 16th hole, I think it was. It was a mob scene. It was incredible. It ended up being great theater. There was the duel between Patrick Cantley and Bryson DeChambeau that went into overtime on Sunday. We'll talk to Rex Hoggard about that. Also, of course, talking about all of the other things, both on the course and away. Will Zalatoris playing well? Tony Finau playing well? See, I know things about golf. Apparently, there's an all-hands-on-deck meeting involving the players today at the BMW that Tiger Woods was going to fly in to be a part of just because, I don't know, he's basically the only thing that matters in the entire sport. I don't really understand what that's all about, but I'll ask Rex, and he can explain to us whether or not it really matters. So that's coming up. Of course, it's also Tuesday, every Tuesday, Simply the Bets at 11:40 a.m., brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. We'll do that today. On Thursday, we'll have Weekend at Bookies again. Simply the Bets, Weekend at Bookies, brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. So all that coming up today. Now, with that all being said, let's go back to last night. Let's go back to the Orioles winning a game. Let's go back to Ryan Mountcastle continuing to murder the Toronto Blue Jays. Let's go back to the Orioles apparently having Yusei Kikuchi's numbers. Let's go back to Kyle Bradish needing to be a little bit better than he was last night, but getting away with it. The disappointing part is, like, in moments, the first 4 outs of the game, I remember after he got the first, he struck out the first batter of the second inning. I was ready to tweet something about, man, this Kyle Bradish is a dude. And then it all kind of fell apart. They got out of that inning only allowing 2, which was a big deal because they protected the lead, and it felt like emotionally, mentally, whatever it was a big deal just to hold on to the lead. So that was a good thing. But Kyle Bradish, they're in good shape because the Orioles bullpen is so good. And you saw that again last night. We don't even talk about Brian Baker when we talk about the strength of the Orioles bullpen. Brian Baker's been excellent. We talk about, of course, Dylan Tate and CNL Perez and Felix Bautista. And earlier in the year, we talked about Jorge Lopez, but we also talked about Keegan Aiken. Brian Baker barely gets mentioned, and he's been excellent. But as was pointed out by a few people, I know we talked about it yesterday with Mike Bordick and with Jeremy Kahn, you've asked a lot of this bullpen this season. Now, can, DL Hall being thrown into the bullpen here in a couple weeks perhaps help solve that problem? Perhaps. Could Grayson Rodriguez make a dramatic return and maybe be an option out of the bullpen in September to help you out as well? Perhaps. But you're asking a lot with no clear answer for how the starting pitching can be any better. Bradish was maybe the guy that you could hope could sort of find himself as the season went on. get comfortable and maybe take a step up, that doesn't appear to be the case. And I'm not writing off Kyle Bradish as a part of the future. This is too small a sample size for too young a player. I don't feel strongly about Kyle Bradish, but he definitely has a chance to be a part of this moving forward. And I think right now I would assume that he's a part of the rotation next season, although it'd be nice if they went out and did enough that they didn't need to have Kyle Bradish be a part of the rotation. It'd be nice if the three guys who we knew were a part of the rotation next year were then surrounded by pitchers the Orioles went out and signed. It'd be nice if the rotation next year was John Means, Grayson Rodriguez, DL Hall, Carlos Rodon, and insert name here.
Jordan Lyles.
Yes, Jordan Lyles could still be back to be a part of it, but that would not ideally even better than that. Right. Kyle Bradish could absolutely be a part of things moving forward, but there's just nothing that we're seeing that suggests he can consistently solve the puzzle for you now. The question really is, at some point, the Orioles just acknowledge their bullpenning, right? Like, do you just acknowledge that, look, this is what we are? You've been doing it with Austin Voth for some time. And if that's the case, it's almost weird that you wouldn't just do it with DL Hall. Like, just say, look, we're going to have 6 starting pitchers, because what we're really saying is we know these guys aren't going 6 innings. We know these guys aren't going 5 innings. They're going as long as we can. We're using as many arms as we can possibly use the rest of the way, and so be it. And if Spencer Watkins has to move into the bullpen for a day, then we'll do that, and then he can start another time. You're here now. You've gotten to this point. Whatever the plans were, this is where you are. You should be trying to make it work. And the starting pitching, for as heroic as it's been, is still the thing that's most likely to hold you back. I'm not trying to say the offense is exceptional, although they were last night. But for the most part, the starting pitching is still the most likely thing that's going to hold you back. So maybe you just kind of acknowledge it. Maybe you look at matchups. You look at an opposing lineup. You make decisions based on who you want a team to put at the top of the lineup for an opener that you're putting out there. You kind of embrace what the Rays have done and said, we'll be like them a little bit just to get through this until we have a place where we're more confident in our rotation. And I'm not saying that anybody in particular has been so bad they have to be kicked out of the rotation. It's just that none of them are so good that you need them to be out there for 6 innings every 5th day. Kyle Bradish couldn't get through 5 last night. Smartly, Brandon Hyde didn't force it, understood that the game could turn in that moment, even though they had a sizable lead at that point. Went and got Brian Baker, who bailed him out. And the bullpen did the work the rest of the way as the Orioles held on and won the first. Really held on. They won it comfortably. Game 1 of the series against the Blue Jays. But in that, as rested as the bullpen was, or the real bullpen was coming into last night, now you had to use your bullpen. And now that can have an impact on what happens for the next couple of games. So I don't know if maybe there shouldn't be a better strategy of, here are the guys we're using, and there being maybe one more pitcher on this roster whose job it is to specifically get innings, a Matt Harvey type, a Bruce Zimmerman type. To just say, hey, we know. We know what we've got. We know we've got a bunch of pitchers that aren't really good enough to be starting pitchers. But we're going to try to get through it. In the meantime, obviously, nice to see the bats come alive. Jorge Mateo continues to look like an absolute rock star. And this goes back to the question that I asked Mike Bordick and Jeremy Conway. I got 2 very different answers from those 2 guys yesterday about Jorge Mateo. And I've done this a couple times this season, and I meant to put it up on Twitter, and I'll try to do that in a minute, which is, how do we talk to our kids about Jorge Mateo? It's the question that I always like to ask because I think you understand what it is that we're saying. Jorge Mateo has been so much fun to watch all season long because he's been an exceptional defender, and he's been a speed demon on the bases unlike anything we've seen in a very long time. It's been incredibly fun to watch Jorge Mateo. But is Jorge Mateo a centerpiece guy, a guy that's saying, hey, look, the hell with Gunnar Henderson, the hell with Jordan Westberg, the hell with Joey Ortiz. You've got your shortstop for the next 5 years, if not longer. He's here already. What are you doing? What are you talking about all these other guys for? You've got your guy. His bat has come to life significantly in the second half of the season, but we still can't pretend like he's a 270, 280 hitter until he were to prove that. He's been a hell of a hitter in a small sample size. And this goes back to the similar questions we asked about Ramon Urias. Remember a couple weeks ago, we were like, well, you can't trade Ramon Urias. He's carrying you offensively right now. Well, what happened to that? Remember, in the beginning of the year, we were talking about Austin Hayes like he could be this team's Nick Markakis for some time. Which isn't to say Austin Hayes hasn't still been a helpful piece or couldn't still be a player that could be here for some time. But clearly, the way we were feeling about him has not necessarily sustained for the entirety of the season. We've done this. And it's really the story of the 2022 Orioles, right? Like, the story of the 2022 Orioles has been no one has really been that good from start to finish. You could argue their most consistent player is Anthony Santander, who's quietly had a productive season. He's not had the weeks necessarily that some of these other guys have had where they've been monsters. He's just quietly been steady and productive all throughout the year. And might end up being Orioles MVP, despite the fact that at no point have we thought that Anthony, this is what I do. I do that all the time when we're doing Santander. Anthony Santander has been all that great. It's just that he's sort of the guy that you look at and say, wow, his production's kind of always been there. Like, it hasn't really gone away for stretches. But for the rest of this season, it's been someone for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. For Austin Hayes, it was like 8 weeks. And then that's tailed off and it's been someone else. Even as hot as Adley Rutschman was, he's cooled slightly. Like, I mean, he's still been very good, obviously, and we're certain that Adley Rutschman is a superstar. At the moment, the story is Jorge Mateo. He's having his moment. But is he having a moment, or is he a guy? Sorry, I said that the wrong way. Is he having a moment, or is he legit? Or is he legitimately establishing himself as a piece for the future? And I ask the question in part because, once again, I don't have the answer. I don't know. I think we all know his glove is going to play. Here's what we were talking about with Bordick yesterday. That thing that he did on Friday night, it's absurd. This is the type of thing you see. Remember how much we freaked out about the play that Manny Machado made when he first got called up, the pump fake and the throw back to third, and it almost defined who he was because it was about his baseball IQ? That's the type of thing. We don't think of Jorge Mateo the way we wanted to think of Manny Machado, so we're not going to compare it in that way. But what Jorge Mateo did on Friday night is the type of thing that only a player of an incredible caliber defensively is not only capable of making, but thinks to make. Both things. Both has the concept to get over, play it on the exact hop, field it in the exact way you would need to field it, and quickly get it out of your glove in a shovel motion in order to get the out at first base. It has to be perfect. That's insane. I think there's no doubt that Jorge Mateo could play that type of defensive shortstop for forever. You know what I mean. But can he be enough of a bat to warrant the spot being his when other guys are coming? It's the question we've been asking, when we were sitting here talking with Adam Pohl last week, and he was raving about Ortiz, it's the question we've asked about Ortiz. Like, everybody's talked about it. Well, we might have a better version of that now. So is Jorge Mateo fodder for a future trade because his spot is going to be taken by a Gunnar Henderson or a Jordan Westberg or a Joey Ortiz or whoever it might be? Or do you already have your answer? Do you have your shortstop for the foreseeable future? I'd like to know that. I'd like to hear from you. At Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter. And get into the comments as well. I'll try to check the video as the day goes on. I'm fascinated by how we talk to our kids about Jorge Mateo. Because there's no doubt he is a joy. He is a delight to watch play this game. The thing that I worry about with this group is, are we selling out and falling in love with players who are good players, but not necessarily great players? And this is obviously the economics that Mike Elias has to do in what type of roster he wants to build for whenever the Orioles are going to be World Series contenders. Are all of them players who are good enough to be good enough, but not good enough to be great, to be the core of a World Series championship team? The Austin Hayes, the Anthony Santanders, the Ryan Mountcastles of the world, who, again, are all definitely Major League Baseball players. There's no question about that. And if your roster was loaded, was top-heavy, and they were the 7th, 8th, 9th guys on your roster, you'd be overjoyed. But are they good enough to be superstars? And do you have enough of the other guys to come in to be superstars in order to keep those guys around? It's an interesting scenario that presents itself. And I'm not just defining it elegantly necessarily. You need in D.C., they needed Juan Soto. They needed Anthony Rendon. They needed Trey Turner. They needed stars. Of course, helped to have a Max Scherzer as well. That would have been that'd be nice. Steven Strasburg. That would be nice. But they needed stars. They needed true game changers, difference makers. And you can marry those guys with your Ryan Zimmermans, who was, of course, more at the tail end of his career at that point. But you can marry those guys with the good players. But there have to be game changers. I am absolutely enamored with Jorge Mateo right now. He's incredible. But is he a game changer? And if you give him shortstop for the future, do you have enough other game changers coming? Do you have true superstars on the way that the roster can be fortified by players like that? Don't know. Don't have the answer. And I know it's something that obviously Mike Elias is thinking about when he makes the types of trades that he made, although he traded for almost exclusively pitching. He's got to think about that as they build whatever is going to be their World Series contending type of roster. Adley Rutschman looks like a superstar. Maybe Gunnar Henderson is truly a superstar. Game changer type of player. And who knows about Colton Cowser or Heston Kjerstad, someone along those lines. But they need those types of players if they're going to elevate the World Series contender, or they need to use the assets they have to trade for one of those types of players, or they need to sign one of those types of players for a lot of money. We'll talk about that. Today's show is also brought to you by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. We're talking about the Toyota Tacoma. Man, it comes in a perfect range of models and trim lines. You can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. Let's talk about the Baltimore Orioles. Let's talk about what it is that we have seen from this group. I know our next guest, who is a huge Orioles fan, he's never hidden from that. He was bummed about the Orioles moving on from Trey Mancini, like we all were, but look at where they are. Here they are, just a game and a half out of all of the wild card spots, which is kind of a wild spot, no pun intended, for this team to be in. Jake Mintz from Fox Sports, Cespedes Family Barbecue, the whole thing. He's back with us here on GCR. What's going on, pal? How are you?
I am doing wonderful. Nothing like waking up the morning after a nice black and orange W.
Yeah, it's nice for the bats to come out in these series openers. Hopefully, unlike in Tampa, they're going to keep doing it for the next couple of nights. Hopefully, that'll be the case. Jake, let me go back, right? Because I know you wrote something in the aftermath of the trade deadline, and it was such a conflicting time for everybody here. Because, and it's funny, I just did a radio hit in Kansas City yesterday, and they were like, hey, man, how's everybody handling it? And my answer is sort of to be determined, right? Like, everybody's excited about what the Orioles are doing, and for the most part, it feels like the fan base has been on board with Mike Elias, but you're also not guaranteed anything, and you are competing right now, and this truly was Trey Mancini that we were talking about in the mix of all of this, and I can't help it. I am only a man. Every time Brett Phillips takes an at-bat for the Baltimore Orioles, I think to myself, why are we doing this when this could be Trey Mancini getting an at-bat right now? I can't shake that. I can't shake it.
Every time it's Nevin or Phillips for me. In my head, it just looks like Trey Mancini. I want to briefly touch on what you said with Mike Elias. I think heading into this year, Elias had not earned the trust or vindication from the fan base yet, right? The farm system had been improving. There were signs of growth, but for the most part, the team on the field at the big league level had continued to suck. Now, this season, he earned some leash. He earned some trust, and he earned some plaudits, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the team is far surpassed anything anybody could have envisioned. And he deserves some of the credit for that, a lot of the credit for that. That being said, I think that the most fun year to be a fan is the first year your team is good, right? When we think back as Orioles fans, 2012 stands out, right? And you can never really replace the magic. It is almost like when you meet the love of your life, right? You think about that first moment. And I think that there's real value in that. All we take away as fans are the memories anyway, right? And so I think to have Mancini here from the emotional perspective for the fan base was worth more than dealing him away for two pitching prospects. Now, on the field, it's insulting. I think the Lopez deal is even more insulting from the on-the-field perspective because the Orioles are currently above the Twins in the wild card. And they're just giving a top 4-5 closer in baseball away to a team they're competing with to not get big league pieces back. Right. Like that was the one I think that really rattled me from the competitive perspective.
It's interesting. Jake, it's interesting because I have been saying for weeks that I was less bothered by the idea of trading Jorge Lopez than I was trading Trey Mancini, mostly just because of the nature of relievers, right? Like it's cyclical. The Orioles are very deep in the bullpen. If you could get pieces that could alter this process for Jorge Lopez, who was obviously found money this season, like no one had any clue that Jorge Lopez could be this guy, I was on board with it. But the point that you just made, and to me, there's a secondary part of it, which is you got single A guys back from it for him. Like you got guys that aren't anywhere close to being able to help you when you're saying out of the other side of your mouth. And I do appreciate the fact that Mike Elias is coming out and saying, look, we're spending money this offseason. We're shifting into gear. But these two things,
right.
They don't work. Like it's a left-hand, right-hand thing that we're doing right now. You can't trade for a bunch of single-A guys and then say, hey, but next year we're moving into hyperdrive.
Right. I totally agree with you. Think about how much more Brian Baker we've seen over the last 2 weeks since Lopez was traded.
Mm-hmm.
And how having Lopez around kind of elongated the bullpen in a way that it's not anymore. And that over the course of the next month and a half will mean something. And it's not just loss value, it's value given to a competitor, right? If he was sent away to a National League team or to the Astros, who, are not really something Orioles people need to worry about because they're so good, that's fine. That's one thing. But we're, the O's are a half game ahead of the Twins in the wild card.
Right. And they're helping them. I understand. Jake Mintz with us here on GCR. Jake, I guess with that being said, right, the argument from some is the goal is to win a World Series. And even as exciting and as fun as this is, all of us, can look back, not all of us, some people are just eternally optimistic, but most of us can look back and say, this team isn't winning a World Series, right? Even if they kept Jorge Lopez and Trey Mancini, even if they had added something at the deadline, even if they had traded for a Jose Urquidy, they had traded for a quality Major League pitcher, that alone would not be enough for this team to be able to win a World Series. So do you embrace what they're doing in the name of, hey, having fun is neat, and a surprising season is cool, but the job is still to put together a World Series caliber roster, and we've got to do everything in our power to find guys that can be a part of that.
I respect that. I respect that mindset. If you cannot build a World Series roster without the 6 minor league pitchers that you acquired at this deadline,
that's fair.
Then you weren't going to do it anyway.
That's fair. I mean,
I appreciate the mindset of we squeeze value out of everywhere. You never know what's going to be under, a stone unturned, et cetera, et cetera. If you couldn't do it without these trades, if you can't build a World Series caliber team without trading away Trey Mancini for 2 minor league pitchers at the deadline, it wasn't going to happen anyway.
That's fair.
That cannot be the thing that pushes it over the top. You know what I mean?
I'm with you. And by the way, it's something that I had said for a couple of weeks when this topic came up with Trey Mancini. This is not making the difference. This is not going to – whatever you're getting back. And by the way, I actually think they did well for Trey Mancini.
I do too.
They had to be creative, right? In order to get a top type of pitching prospect, it had to be somebody that, was coming off of Tommy John surgery. That's the way that it would work in order to get that for a rental of a positionless bat. But they did it. I think they did well. But even saying that, no, to your point, if this is the difference, then I refuse to believe it. I refuse to believe that the difference in whether the Orioles can win the World Series or not is whether Seth Johnson and Chase McDermott pan out as pitchers. It's far too dangerous for it all to come down to that.
I think the 15% chance of the team making the playoffs this year, that complete and total shock of a year lives on. It's basically the 1989 Why Not team if they'd actually done it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And think about how much that team gets referenced on the broadcast.
Yeah,
they didn't even make the freaking
It's
playoffs.
Considered one of the most special seasons in Orioles history. And yes, to your point. Now, obviously, it was a different time where only 2 teams made the playoffs, and so who knows. Right. But I get it. I completely get it, and that's what we're feeling. Jake, let me pose this to you because it's something we were talking about this morning. We're talking about in the context of Jorge Mateo, right? This is a trope that I use on this show sometimes, where it's how do we talk to our kids about Jorge Mateo? And what I mean by that is, my God, this dude could not be more fun to watch play the game of baseball. I'm ready to put a poster on my wall because the joy that I'm getting watching Jorge Mateo play baseball every night is overwhelming. He does everything, and he does it in a way that just reminds you of everyone that you grew up loving as a baseball player as a kid. But yet, save for the last couple of weeks where his bat's come alive, we don't think of him as a guy that's likely to be a top-notch type of hitter as a major league player. There are infield prospects coming. Is Jorge Mateo a guy we should be thinking about as a part of the solution long term, and a guy that you're giving shortstop to knowing what might be coming? Or do we have to be realistic that, as fun as it is, this team still probably needs to do better than that if they're going to push towards building a World Series contender?
I think it completely depends on the rest of the roster. So championships have been won by teams with average hitting, elite defensive shortstops. right? It's not as if he's simply good at short. He has been elite. He's
No
a
doubt.
top 3 defender at the position. And the value in that is immense. Immense to the point where if you look at WAR, he has been the second most valuable Oriole on the entire team as a below average major league hitter. He's it's pretty close now that he's been hot to average. But if he can be an average big league hitter and play elite defense and steal bases and bunt and run and all that other stuff, you can't build a whole roster out of Jorge Mateos. But that is a championship caliber player if he's hitting 8th or 9th in your lineup. I have no qualms about that. Now, if Carlos Correa is on the market, that's a different story, right? But what it does do is Mateo is a better defender at shortstop than really anyone the Orioles have. He's better than Westberg there. He's better than Henderson there. And what it allows you to do is it allows you to bring those guys up and plug them in elsewhere. I think of all the players on the current roster who have a chance to be on like the World Series winning team, I think Mateo's like shot up that list more than really anyone else this year.
So what you're alluding,
just because here's the thing, dude. He can do things that so few other players
I agree.
can do.
Yeah, I mean it's dude,
right?
it's a joy. I mean it's truly a joy,
right,
watching this guy play baseball because of what you're alluding to. I guess what I worry about, and we just had Austin Hayes on the other day, and I love 3 months ago, 2 months ago, whatever it was, we did an entire morning asking whether Austin Hayes might be becoming this version of the Orioles' Nick Markakis. And just 2 months later, we, of course, don't feel that way, which isn't to say we don't think that Austin Hayes isn't a Major League Baseball player. I think he is. It's just that we've been reminded he was on an unbelievable heater for the first couple months of the season. That's probably not who he really is as a baseball player. And, for a minute, we were talking about Ramon Urias as being a guy like that could be a part of the solution. And I worry that we fall in love as fans with guys that are good baseball players, but maybe not. And I love what the comparison you make is I just said it 10 minutes ago. Guys that if they were the 7th, 8th, or the 9th guy on your roster, you'd feel great about. But if you keep promising spots to guys that are 7th, 8th, 9th guys, you got a team full of guys that just aren't quite good enough to be championship contending. And so
I think there's a difference. I think there's a difference with Mateo specifically.
Okay.
I totally agree with the dynamic that you're presenting where, over the course of the rebuild, right, earlier this year we thought Bruce Zimmerman was going to start the All-Star game, right? This happens. We get swooped.
He was spectacular.
God, he was so good.
It's so funny to think about that, right? The team stunk. The team was terrible, but Bruce Zimmerman was having a great start.
Right. And so the difference with Mateo is that he does two things elite level. Elite. Not just for the Orioles, but for baseball. And that is field the ball, and that is run. And Austin Hayes, Ramon Urias, most of the other players on the Orioles do not do anything at an elite level.
Right.
That is the difference. The best version of Austin Hayes is a very good player. The best version of Jorge Mateo is a beast, right? But the worst version of both of them, Mateo can be a backup utility infielder who comes off the bench. Hayes is not a rosterable guy, if the bottom falls out.
Yeah.
Right? And because of that, I think Mateo is the single most valuable found piece this organization has uncovered, just behind Cedric Mullins since the rebuild began.
So
I am all in.
Are you planning next season on it being Henderson at third and Mateo at short then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mateo gets to play short for the Baltimore Orioles until his bat proves he cannot do that.
Okay.
Because
I'm with it.
The value he provides, and remember, if he stops hitting, then you just make him a bench bat and see if he hits enough doing that, and you can plug and play him. You know what I mean? You pinch run him. Like there's so many different things he can do that it makes him a rosterable guy. Like he was getting time sort of on the good Padres teams when he was hitting like 105 because he could do all these other things.
I mean, he can't hit 105 here. Like, that can't work. But
no,
I understand what you're saying.
He's not going to.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Let me do this. You're Mike Elias. He's saying we're spending money this off. The easy thing from all of us is, well, you're spending it on pitching, right? You have a bunch of question marks going into next year with John Means, Grayson Rodriguez coming off of injuries. I still think there's some questions about what DL Hall is, whether he's really a top-notch starter as a major league pitcher, or whether maybe his stuff says he's more of a bullpen guy long-term. But you've got so many questions. I think it's obvious you need to spend some money on pitching. Is there one other place that you would say immediately this offseason you should spend money here, that you shouldn't fall in love with the guy that you have or what might be coming, and instead you should look now to spend money at this spot for next year's major league team?
I mean, the guy who I want is Rodon, Carlos Rodon, with the Giants, who should opt out of his deal, who's basically guaranteed to opt out of his deal. He's just the type of top-end, 6 innings, 1 run, 9 Ks, every freaking time out that the Orioles have not had for some time. He's a guy who can start, in his current form, start game 1 of a playoff series and feel good about it.
Yep.
That's the dude that I'm in on. Beyond that, if you take a look at some of the free agents, it's a weird class. There are 2 big free agent shortstops available. 3, actually. Tim Anderson, who I believe has a club option that they'll pick up. So I guess he won't be a free agent. But Dansby Swanson and Trey Turner are both free agents this upcoming year. And I think Turner is a really alluring fit, just because he can move around the diamond, right? You can put him at second. You can put him in center. And I know the Orioles like that type of positional flexibility. He's also like a top 10 player in the league. If you're asking me whether I'd rather have Correa or Turner for the next 5 years, I think I'd rather have Turner. So the shortstop market is good, again, with Turner, Correa, and Swanson. But in terms of what I think this roster really needs, they just need a dude who could freaking hit, just like a hitter. And I'm not exactly sure who that is on the market. And I'm not exactly sure if Brian Mountcastle is that guy.
Right.
He is if he gets to play the Blue Jays every time. But they just need a dude who can really hit. Are they going to get Aaron Judge?
No. That's insane. I mean, and I don't. It's not even that I don't think they're going to spend that type of money. I don't think I can justify it just because I'm still so turned off by the fact that they spent money on Chris Davis, and once they did that, they didn't spend money on anybody else. Which is really eternally the story to me of that, which is it was okay. You didn't know how bad it was going to be. It was okay to spend money on Chris Davis. It wasn't okay to spend money on Chris Davis and then say, well, we're done spending money. And I get worried about that. Like, I really do. Even when people bring up Carlos Correa, I'm like, is Carlos Correa really a $200 to $100 million baseball player based on what we've seen from him? Like, really? Is he that guy? And if you do that and that's what you're spending money on, you don't have a championship team there. Like, that ain't it.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of off, and I'm definitely probably, if you're going to do it, I'd be more inclined for it to be Turner.
Turner is really compelling to me. Turner, you know what Turner is? Turner is like the elite version of Jorge Mateo with worse defense. But like he can just do all these things on a baseball field, except he is like a 140 OPS plus hitter also.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. I'd take it.
It's pretty good, man.
And to your point about a bat, by the way, I would be ready now if you can find the bopper. You can find that guy who's your, 30 home run guy. And I know that's tougher now with the new Camden Yards, right? Like, I understand that you almost have to reconsider everything. But if you can find that guy, right, I'm willing to start trading from your depth now in order to start finding those guys. Like, when you say it's on, it needs to be on.
Right. And like that type of guy is like Kyle Schwarber. Not that they're going to trade for him, but like that type of player. Mm-hmm. Nick Castellanos before he fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
Right. Jose Abreu. Like a guy where you put him in, he's a bad defender, but he just hit. Ian Happ kind of fits this bill a little bit where he just hits, man.
Yep.
Like he just freaking hits. And I think the Orioles need a guy they can pencil in the middle of that lineup for a while. and I'm curious to see who it'll be.
Jake, what can I plug for you, dude? I know obviously you're doing stuff with Fox. Is there something specific we can plug?
Not really. I went to the Field of Dreams game.
Oh, that doesn't suck.
I'm proud of.
Oh, how cool was that, man?
It was very cool. I'm not a fan of the movie. Like, I think the movie's fine.
Okay, can we talk about that?
Because the event.
I can't believe how much you and I agree on some of these things. It's not just that I'm not a fan.
The movie's fine.
I'm actually a little bit the other way. It's weird as hell.
Fine with me.
It's so weird.
Thank you. Okay, good. It's so weird. This dude. Okay, yes. This dude is like saying to his wife, "Yo, I'm trying to build this baseball field in the corn," and his wife is like, "No, it's our livelihood," and she's the villain.
Right. Like, he's talking to ghosts, and she's the bad. It's so I get so creeped out every time I hear "ease his pain." I get so creeped out by it.
Oh, but dude, if that happened nowadays, it'd be like you need to see someone.
Correct.
Like you're hearing ghosts. You need to just get medicated. It's okay.
But I'm still on board with a baseball field in the middle of a cornfield in Iowa. Like, I'm still on board with that.
Correct.
I think that's a cool idea, whether or not it's related to a movie.
Right. The movie is really cheesy, but what I do like about it is that it makes everyone think about the origins of their relationship with baseball.
Right.
In a very kind of primal, primitive way that is very thought-provoking and I think unifying between, the players on the field and us. Like, we all have that place, that moment, that person that made us fall in love with the game to begin with. And players have that too. And there are very few things that we as fans and as people who cover the game really do share with players. They're superheroes. They're, celebrities. They're very different than us. But what I found about this game is it was a very unifying space that was very thought-provoking in a lot of ways. So I kind of wrote about that experience and got my hair cut in downtown Dyersville by a barber who has been cutting hair in the exact same spot for 48 years.
That's awesome. That's a cool trip, man. That's really cool. But you know what else I love about it? We talked about this with the Orioles playing in the Little League thing this week. I also like just breaking up the monotony of a season, right? Like we talk about this. It's 162 games. Fans are easy to just say, if I skip this one, it's fine because there's a bunch more coming, right? Like, I don't need to watch tonight because there's going to be another baseball game. Giving them something that you say, I can't skip this, I'm very on board with that. Very on board with something like that. So that's cool. All right, I know I've kept you forever. At Jake_Mintz and Cespedes BBQ on Twitter. Dude, this is always fun, man. I'd love to do this again before the season is over. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Not a problem. We'll do it to preview the wildcard game.
I love that. Love that. Thanks, buddy. Jake Mintz, Cespedes Family Barbecue, MLB on Fox, and, does not hide from what a massive Orioles fan he is. Really appreciate him taking the time for us. I want to talk more about the Jorge Mateo thing. I've gotten some of your guys' responses, and I promise we're going to get to those. How do we talk to our kids about Jorge Mateo? I probably am inclined to agree with Jake, but I'd say that knowing that a couple months ago I was inclined to agree with you guys about Austin Hayes. So I get nervous about me falling in love with the guy that I have. We'll talk more about that when we come back in. It is a Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Swagger is a daily fantasy sports site created for sports fans who want some skin in the game and a real shot at winning. Forget plus-minus odds, Swagger uses points for a better way to understand probabilities. If you're tired of losing because of one bad pick, with Swagger, you don't need to be perfect to win. You just create a lineup of 4 to 10 simple player props and score points for the ones you get right. So you can be half right and all right with Swagger. Swagger offers the most player props and biggest payouts of any DFS site, as much as 50 times your buy-in. Plus, you can play all the major pro sports, including your favorite local teams, games. If you're ready to play, visit playwithswagger.com/pressbox to sign up, and Swagger will give you $10 free to try them out. Plus, they'll match your first deposit 100% up to $100. It's free money to play with Swagger. Swagger, daily fantasy for all fankind. Playwithswagger.com/pressbox.
These are the final days for you to pick up the very special Salute to Coaches issue of PressBox, with John Harbaugh on the cover and 8 other area high school, college, and pro coaches recognized inside, with amazing stories told by the athletes whose lives they've impacted the most. You can find the Salute to Coaches issue for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always read every PressBox print issue at PressBoxOnline.com. And coming soon, our football preview issue, which features Ravens tight end Mark Andrews on the cover and profiles of players from Maryland, Navy, Towson, and Morgan State.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
Sports betting has come to Maryland, and we're ready to help you win some money. Tune in for Simply the Bets every Tuesday morning at 11:40. FanDuel Sportsbook GM Leon Twyman and VSiN's Aaron Oster join the guys every week to give you all of the info you need and offer you a few winners. And every other Thursday at 11:40, tune in for Weekend at Bookies as Andrew Stecca and Alloy Sports' Brad Kronthal help make you some money for the weekend. So come win some money with us on Simply the Bets every Tuesday and Weekend at Bookies every other Thursday. Brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. Watch at YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline.
Visit Howard County presents the 2022 Major League Quidditch Championship, a Harry Potter-inspired, real-life, full-contact, mixed-gender, 12-team Quidditch tournament happening at Troy Park in Elkridge, August 20th through the 22nd. For tickets and more information, go to visithowardcounty.com. Maryland, be open for it.
Don't forget that full episodes of the show are available for free on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. But warning, you get what you pay for. You're listening to Glenn Clark Radio.
UFC 278 is coming up on Saturday night. The place to watch and bet on the fights is the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. 61 self-service kiosks, now more spread out throughout the property. And consider the fact that you could order the fight at home for $75 and then pay money for food, and you'll just be out all of that money. Or you could watch the fight for free, win money betting on the fights that perhaps covers the money that you'll spend on food in the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel and Sports and Social, or maybe exceeds whatever you'll spend on food and drink. You can come out with more than you started. You're guaranteed to be roughly 100 down. You order the fight at home. It's a big fight on Saturday night, obviously. Usman thought of as being the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world at this point, taking on Leon Edwards. Huge fight. You're going to want to order it. You're going to want to talk about it. You're going to want to watch it. Why don't you go bet on the fights, win money, and come out on top in the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Reserve your spot right now by emailing events@sportssocialmd.com. Okay, so let's talk about it. How do we talk to our kids about Jorge Mateo? What do we say? How do we figure out how to solve this puzzle? From, hey, Bird for Life 49, I need you to tell me who you are, because you've been getting back in touch. I want to know what your name is, so I just need you to reach out to me, because I always appreciate you've been great to interact with, and I appreciate you being on board. Please, reach out. Let me know what your name is. Trade for top-end talent that can be good MLB. Oh, no, that's a different response. Sorry. This is the one I was looking for. Keep Mateo for a few years until you project Jackson being ready. I'm trying to think of how long reasonably until you're at that point.
3, yeah.
I think at the... So let's do this math backwards. If there hadn't been a pandemic, when do we think Adley Rutschman would have been here?
Probably last year.
Last year?
Yeah.
Now, he was a college player, so it's a little bit different. 3 years is probably
19.
about that. Keep Mateo for a few years until you project Jackson being ready. If Gunnar is above average at third, then play him there and as a backup shortstop. Westberg and Vavra at second. Arias is a true utility guy that can get plenty of at-bats, if not traded. From Matt Torper, our buddy Matt says, there's plenty of room in this infield for Mateo to coexist with Westberg and Henderson. Jake was right that Mateo's elite defense and speed, virtually immutable traits, gives him a rock-solid floor that few others on the roster have. Certainly not Hayes or Urias, who, as we pointed out, are two of the other guys that we've had this conversation about during the course of the year. From Danny. Danny says, Glenn, I understand exactly what it is that you're saying. I like Jorge Mateo a lot. I guess my question would be, ultimately, is he more valuable to this team as a trade chip knowing what's coming? Does someone else truly fall in love with him as being a solution that doesn't have a Gunnar Henderson and a Jackson Holiday in the pipeline? If they do, could you use that to pry away the type of bat that you and Jake Mintz were talking about?
I'd be open to that.
Potentially. My buddy Spencer Schultz, Ravens for Dummies on Twitter from a Baltimore Beatdown. He says, prospects don't always pan out. Mateo is starting to pan out. Can always use those prospects to find help somewhere else. I guess he's referring to the other guys, that you can always use Henderson and Westberg to try to help you out in trades. The good thing about shortstops is that they can usually play everywhere. Shortstop, third base, second base, first base, right field, left field, depending on the arm. They're the best defenders. That argument is probably more of why you can say, hey, no matter what, no matter how you think of Jorge Mateo, he's inherently more valuable than some of these other guys we're talking about. He's inherently more valuable than Urias was, or than even when we talk about Austin Hayes, because those guys, there isn't a backup plan for them. To the point, if Jorge Mateo you pencil in, and he's performing well at shortstop, but isn't a great hitter ever, like is just a 250 type of hitter, but continues to play this incredibly high-level shortstop and continues to be a real speed guy, but Jackson Holiday continues to progress and is playing a high-level shortstop as he's coming up, and you get to that point where he demands being here because his bat is unbelievably legit and he plays a high-level shortstop, you could always slide Jorge Mateo over to second base at that point. Like, you could always slide Jorge Mateo somewhere else to fit a need. Jake Mintz's point is well taken. Right. If the bat falls off completely, if what we've seen right now is the best the bat will ever be, and he's going to revert back to being a 200, 210, 215 type of hitter, then he could still be a guy that's available on your bench to do specific things. To give you on a as needed basis a late inning defensive replacement for whatever infielder you feel the weakest about defensively, whether that's at short or third or second. He could always be a pinch runner off the bench. Remember, the Royals teams that were good had about 6 of those guys on their roster. They just kept taking more of them. Give me Terrence Gore and give me, Billy Hamilton. And give me Michael Taylor, and give me literally all of them. Give me every
Nicky Lopez.
It was a little bit later on.
Yeah, you're right.
That was. I'm trying to. I feel like there was one more that was.
Mondesi?
No, Mondesi was Mondesi. What are you doing? Just guess.
His name.
It's not his name. It's. Do you remember his? No, you don't remember his father. God, why am I even asking that question? His father was a Rookie of the Year for the Dodgers once upon a time. Raul Mondesi. Mondesi is how you say that one. I don't know all of them. There are plenty that I don't know. I'm still not sure that I know Urias. But there are some that I do. And I assure you there's no Nick Offerman, you goof.
Right.
Okay. Rita chimes in. I don't know. I want him to stay, but centerpiece is a huge word that I'm not sure I'm ready to say with him yet.
Yeah.
I get it. I really do concern myself with the idea of building a roster of guys that are just good, that are solid major league players, and us being so enamored with them because they're fun and because they're competitive and because they're doing all of these things, but ultimately is that enough to break through? Look, the Yankees apparently stink. So this is a tough year to say it because once upon a time it looked like it was going to be very difficult for any to beat the Yankees in the American League. Now, you could argue the American League is utterly wide open. That's the goofy thing about, if the Orioles were to get in the playoffs, right now you can't tell me who they can't beat. There's not a team in the American League. In the National League, I don't think they could beat the Mets. I don't think they could beat the Dodgers. I don't think anybody could beat the Dodgers.
Right.
Maybe the Mets could beat the Dodgers. I guess I take that back. I'm sorry. I'm being disrespectful to the Astros. The Astros are clearly the team to beat in the American League. That's unfair. There's nothing that says that the Orioles could win a playoff series, particularly a long playoff series, with the Astros. There's nothing that says they would be capable of doing that. But everybody else, literally everybody else in the picture, and if this is what the Yankees are, if they don't figure themselves out, and it's starting to be a large sample size that we're seeing with the Yankees. They can't score. The hell happened to them? Either Aaron Judge is hitting a home run or they're effed. There's nobody else in the American League right now that the Orioles couldn't win in a playoff series against. My buddy Phil Backert, who, of course, does fantasy baseball for PressBox. Nothing wrong with having a strong bench that can help your team. We're seeing that now with McKenna. I understand that, but you can only give so many of those spots away. Like, you're only allowed to have 26 dudes on a roster. The question becomes, are you just penciling in, hey, Jorge Mateo's a plan until he's not a plan, and then he's a bench guy after that? Or are you purposely attempting to sell high? If you're afraid that he might not be that guy, shouldn't you first be looking to move him to someone else who thinks he could be? And you get a ransom in return. That, to me, is at the crux of the Jorge Mateo conversation. Are you convinced that you have seen enough to believe he could be really a star, that you have to give him that spot? Or, look, if somebody calls you this offseason, do you say, man, we got a lot coming. I don't know for sure that he's that guy. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we listen. One way or the other, whether that's for, another prospect or whether it's part of a package that can land you the type of player that we were just talking about. Your Kyle Schwarber type middle-of-the-order bat. If that guy is to be had, if that guy is available, and I haven't done a lot of work on that. I know Jake was just spitballing guys like Ian Happ, but I agree with him. I think this lineup is missing that. And I want Ryan Mountcastle to be that guy, but I don't know how long we keep waiting to find out for sure that he is. And I don't know how long you give first base to someone who may or may not be. But there is inherent value. It's the thing, when we were all laughing about the idea of a Spencer Torkelson or Andrew Vaughn being a number 1 overall pick, the one thing I kept saying is, if that guy's going to turn out to be Jeff Bagwell, that changes everything. I think you need a bopper still. A bopper you can rely on. I know Anthony Santander has home run power, but a reliable thumper in the middle of this order is still something that I think this team needs moving forward to make the difference in building towards being a World Series winner type of player, type of team. Yeah. So if you're not fully convinced that Jorge Mateo is your shortstop for 5+ years, and another team really likes him, and another team doesn't have the depth that you have, are you listening? I'm struggling with it. I'm really struggling with it because I am enamored. I'm feeling feelings. I'm catching feelings for Jorge Mateo. It is such a joy to watch the dude play. But am I convinced? I don't know that I'm convinced. I'm not sure I'm ready to go there. I'm not certain. From Joe. Joe says, Joe, I'm confused. Okay. Joe says, love Mateo. Think he is legitimately that guy. What is that guy, though? Is that guy a perennial all-star? No, probably not. Is that guy a Mike Bordick plus? Yeah, that's what I think he is. I think he's a guy that you're really happy to have at shortstop and you need to surround with better players. The question is whether the Orioles have better players. I had to clean that up a little bit. But I think I kind of agree with you, Joe. I mean, I really do. I think that's kind of what I've been saying. I like Jorge Mateo. But if you're relying on Jorge Mateo the same way that you're relying on this person, that person, that person, do you have enough? My gut tells me no. My gut tells me he ain't Trey Turner. But maybe he's becoming that. Maybe that's what we're seeing. Maybe the last month or two is proving he could be. Matt Torper, sure, sell him high if you get a good deal, but it better be way, way more than you got for Trey or certainly for Jorge Lopez. Yeah, I mean, I'm not inclined to just give away Jorge Mateo for the sake of giving away. And I hope those specifically aren't the trades that Mike Elias is making moving forward. I didn't want him to be trading for single-A guys now. I'm hoping that the trades that Mike Elias is making now moving forward are trades for guys that are far closer to being major league ready. That's what I'm hoping those trades would be if you're trading for prospects. Hour number 1 of today's show is in the books. If you missed it last night, Stan the Fan Charles and Ross Grimsley caught up with Ken Guthrie. He is the scout that was responsible for scouting Jackson Holiday for the Baltimore Orioles, explained what it is they saw in him, why they were confident in him as being the number 1 overall pick. Really didn't save much money. This was just the guy. Why? Ken Guthrie explained that last night. If you missed it, you can find it at facebook.com/PressBoxSports, youtube.com/PressBoxOnline, or PressBoxOnline.com/video. We'll get to more of your responses. How do we talk to our kids about Jorge Mateo? And I believe we're going to talk some golf with Rex Hoggard from the Golf Channel. Next, the PMW Championship is coming back to Baltimore. It's a Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. Swagger is a daily fantasy sports site created for sports fans who want some skin in the game and a real shot at winning. Forget plus-minus odds. Swagger uses points for a better way to understand probabilities. If you're tired of losing because of one bad pick, with Swagger, you don't need to be perfect to win. You just create a lineup of 4 to 10 simple player props and score points for the ones you get right. So you can be half right and all right with Swagger. Swagger offers the most player props and biggest payouts of any DFS site, as much as 50 times your buy-in. Plus, you can play all the major pro sports, including your favorite local teams. If you're ready to play, visit playwithswagger.com/pressbox to sign up, and Swagger will give you $10 free to try them out. Plus, they'll match your first deposit 100% up to $100. It's free money to play with Swagger. Swagger, daily fantasy for all fankind. Playwithswagger.com/pressbox.
Stan the Fan here, welcoming back one of my favorite sponsors, the Costas Inn. And everybody around Baltimore knows the Costas Inn is a great place to go and grab crabs, steaks, salads, soups, whatever's on your mind to eat in person. But did you know that the Costas Inn has upped their game? They are now one of the premier takeout places in Baltimore. Give them a call now to order your food, 410-477-1975. That's the Costas Inn over 4100 North Point Boulevard.
The biggest pro wrestling stars today and all time all have one thing in common. You've heard them on Jobbing Out.
Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks.
Thanks for having us, man. Appreciate it.
The great Kurt Angle.
Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Matt Riddle.
Yeah, man. Thanks, man.
The champ, Drew McIntyre.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Bill Goldberg.
My pleasure.
Charlotte.
Thank you so much for having me.
Mick Foley is with us.
This is the greatest name for a wrestling show I've ever heard.
MJF.
I'm glad you're happy I'm on this show because I'm freaking miserable.
Le
champion.
Chris Jericho.
Le champion.
AJ, Aaron, Brandon, and Glenn are talking pro wrestling every week on Jobbing Out. Find it at PressBoxOnline.com/radio, iTunes, and SoundCloud.
Come experience Maryland's #1 sportsbook this NFL season at the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel, the ultimate place for any sports enthusiast. Take advantage of our 24/7 kiosks, massive video screens, and watch all the action from the best seat in the house. With more money paid out than anyone around, make every moment more at the new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
Summer is in full swing, and so is the summer seasonal menu at Glory Days Grill. Start with the opener, flash fried pork belly with their popular Korean No. 2 sauce, and try their South Carolina barbecue chicken, or backed by popular demand, the lobster roll with grilled corn. Also try the irresistible crab and lobster fries, or the very berry salad with chicken. And for dessert, the Cracker Jack sundae with a waffle, ice cream, and Cracker Jacks. This menu will be gone. Find out more and get your order in at glorydaysgrill.com. Glory Days Grill, great food, good sports.
To follow the show on Instagram, it's just Glenn Clark Radio. And to follow the show on OnlyFans, wait, I don't think you're supposed to know about that one. Any hoodle, take it away, boys.
All right, back in here on GCR. We will attempt to track down Rex Hoggard before today's show wraps up. And the good news, again, if you missed it this morning, the BMW Championship is coming back to Caves Valley in 2025. And so, as I said earlier, hopefully, that means that PGA Tour has come through, whatever this all is, and they've gotten everything figured out, and everybody's there, and all's good. I hope that proves to be the case. Hope that's the case. We will see. And in fact, we're going to talk more about it right now. All right, it is a Tuesday edition of GCR. 2025 BMW Championship will return to Caves Valley after an incredible event last year. Joining us now to talk more about that and everything going on in the world of golf, he is our friend Rex Hoggard from the Golf Channel, and he's with us now here on GCR. Rex, it's Glenn. Great to catch up with you, man. Thank you for taking the time, as always.
Of course. Anything going on in the world of golf right now?
Yeah, I've heard there's a few things happening. I heard there's a couple things going on. Hey, before we get to that, how excited are you about the Orioles?
Very excited.
Dude.
Very excited. You know what's funny is in a media press room, just to kind of open up the curtain a little bit, so there's the AP golf writer. His name is Doug Ferguson, huge Dodgers fan.
Okay.
And then there's a couple of Red Sox fans and a couple of Yankees fans. And for the better part of my 20-plus year career as a golf writer, I've never been able to walk through a press center wearing an Orioles hat or anything associated. I'm telling you, I'm wearing them out right now.
Dude, it's so much fun. It is so much, and it's so unexpected, right? And by the way, whoever's a Yankees fan, you get to say they stink now. Like, they're terrible now. So this is wonderful. I'm on board with this. All right, so we'll talk about the other stuff, but for us locally, this is still a big deal. The event last year, to me, and Rex, I'm not like Drew. I'm not, golf isn't in my blood, but I went out there and I breathed it and I lived it, and I said, man, this is incredible. And it had a huge economic impact for the area. What was the response from everybody on the golf side of things to Caves Valley? And why is it, do you think, that they ended up deciding to bring the BMW back in 2025?
Really good market, first and foremost, as you pointed out. I mean, I think just from an economic point of view, from what I was told, the sales were great. Not just ticket sales, but more this is like corporate suites and that kind of thing is what they look at. So it's a good market because it's a starved market, let's be honest.
Yep.
There's not a lot of high-quality golf in that area. And in D.C. being as well, I know the Wells Fargo was there this year. So you can kind of pull from that, and people want to come out and see it. And the golf course. I mean, Caves Valley is a special place. I remember the first time I covered an NCAA championship there. And I think it was actually, the U.S. Senior Open.
Oh,
I played it the day afterwards. And it was one of my favorites immediately. It's such a special place. And I think that's it. So from the player's perspective, they're going to want to go to play a tournament. And the answer to that is, why do you play that? And the answer is 1A and 1B are always the golf course. So you've got that covered with the players. And then the other side is the economics for the tour. It's a good fit.
Do you feel like this is proof that this could become maybe a rotational thing, that, like, if they're coming back literally this quickly within 4 years, it could be a sign of, either more BMW championships? I know that it'd be well down the road, but like that it could be in the mix for a bigger event, a Ryder Cup. I don't know what it is. Is it a sign that Caves Valley and this market have established themselves as being part of the rotation for years to come?
I think so. And look, the BMW is going to be a little strange because that's being tugged in a lot of different directions. I mean, Chicago would be the primary place because it's benefiting the Western Golf Association, which is right there out of Chicago. That's a sort of a middle America thing, but it fits in so well this week in Delaware being another example where you have the opportunity to take this tournament that's always going to get a good field because it's the playoffs, because it's an important event. And you can sort of just parachute that in and around different markets. So, yeah, I don't know if it would be a once every 4 year thing, but I could definitely see it in a rotation. And as far as a bigger event, absolutely. I mean, it certainly has proven that it has the infrastructure and, I don't know, let's call it the architectural bones to host even a major championship, I would argue.
Really? Really? I mean, it wouldn't be a U.S. Open site, though, right? Like, this is, I mean, guys are scoring it at Caves. Like, they would, what would be, like, is it a PGA championship type of venue?
I mean, the U.S. Senior Open was a major.
That's true. I mean, yeah.
And they can set it up as difficult as they want. I mean, it's all about setup, and certainly for the BMW, it's going to be set up different than it would be for a major championship. I guess the best comp right now would be Quail Hollow.
Okay.
And just a few, 2 months from now, it's going to host the President's Cup.
Yeah.
And it's hosted the PGA Championship, and I think it's in line to host the Ryder Cup. Quail Hollow is kind of in a bit of a different category, but I wouldn't argue that it's in that big of a different category.
With that
I don't know. I'm starting to sound like a homer now. Now
I know,
you're talking
right?
me out of it, but I feel like it's no. I'm not saying that just because I'm playing to the audience. I think it's a great course and a great venue.
But Rex, what jumped out at me about the crowd, and I know part of it was the Bryson factor and everybody, hating Bryson, and so of course they fell in love with Patrick Cantlay, and then the theater was spectacular. I mean, it was just an unbelievable Sunday, but it was a loud, raucous crowd that, as you pointed out, has been starved for an event like this, and it was a drunk crowd. I mean, they were electric, and the feel of that for like an international event seems like almost the perfect marriage, right?
It really is, and again, I'll go back to the Wells Fargo being at TPC Avenel Farms, Potomac, whatever it is. Yeah. I always get caught up on the wrong side of that. It was a great crowd this year for that. So I think once you start sort of experimenting with these different markets, I'll be curious to see what it's like this week in Delaware, because I'm pretty sure it's like an hour from Philadelphia, and there's plenty of large markets to pull from there. It's a very good golf course. Like, I think those are interesting to me because I'm a big fan of the classics, like Congressional, any of the classic courses, certainly Brookline this year for the U.S. Open. Any of the classics are always fun to go back to because you start comparing, different eras and different decades and different golfers. But I also see there's place in the game to sort of rotate new venues in, and that's a good one.
All right, here's Rex Hoggard from the Golf Channel. He's with us here on Glenn Clark Radio. Rex, this is the question, right? What are things going to look like by 2025? Where is the PGA Tour going to be? Where will the playoffs be? Like, is everything going to have worked itself out by 2025? Or like, how do you make sense of everything that's going on in the context of planning for 3 years down the road?
You're talking to a guy that was in a courtroom in San Jose last Tuesday, hearing a potential schedule that I could, in theory, be in court that week in San Francisco, covering an antitrust lawsuit while that tournament's going on. So it's hard for me to actually sit here and say, because that was some of the dates that the judge offered both sides. Was either there was like 2 dates late next year, and then she said the next spot's on the calendar of 2025. So we may not get an answer until then. I don't know. It's a very good question. I think I will say this, that the PGA Tour has not had this kind of momentum on its side in this particular fight against LIV Golf in a while. It was a big win last week in that court case, not having those players, the LIV suspended players in the field for the playoffs. I feel like the new schedule has sort of met all the requirements that maybe some of the top players had wanted. Starting next year, we're going back to a calendar schedule. We're going to try to condense the schedule a little bit. The purses have gone up dramatically. So for the first time in a long time, I feel like there's some momentum. However, I mean, even with that wind at the Tour's back, there were still things last week. I mean, certainly all the rumors about Cam Smith going to LIV Golf. I mean, he could have become world number one last week. And just imagine the impact of the world's best player going to LIV Golf. It's not going away, and I don't see, to answer your question, I don't know what the end game is here.
So we heard a lot about this meeting that's allegedly happening today, and oh my God, because you use the when the name Tiger Woods gets thrown in, it seems like it's that big of a deal. If there's momentum now, then what would the reason be for this today? Like what is this as explosive as it's being made out to be by some?
I don't think it's going to be explosive. It's notable because anytime Tiger Woods gets on a jet to go in, to meet with the tour, it's going to be notable because clearly he has something to say, and clearly there's something he wants to hear. And so that in itself is notable. As far as there won't be anything actionable. I mean, we won't be reporting tonight some sort of dramatic change to the PGA Tour. That's not the way the organization works. But certainly the people in the room suggest that my take on it is this is a move towards player empowerment. And we've seen it in every other sport, right?
Sure.
I mean, certainly the Brooklyn Nets are a poor example of that, but an example of that nonetheless. I think that's what this is. Whether or not if it's Tiger and Rory and the rest of the top players walking in the room making an ultimatum, or if it's, look, we need to address this now. Because the commissioner of the PGA Tour, Jay Monahan, has said this in public. If this is a fight and we're just doing this with dollar bills, the tour can't win that battle.
Yep.
They're going to lose a bidding war. And so we need to figure out, to your previous point, what does this look like in 2025? And we need to come up with a clear plan to answer whatever it is that's going on. Now, exactly what that means and what that's going to add up to, I don't know. There's been a lot of crazy rumors about what they might be trying to get or trying to sort of transform the tour into. I don't think right now it's coexistence, but that might be an option as well.
So a lot of people have brought that up, the idea of, whether it's LIV playing in the fall and then players being allowed to participate in both. I don't know what matters to them because the fall, it does kind of limit where you can play at that point. Like, I don't think you're going to be playing in New Jersey in November, I don't think. Is that practical? Is that what they want on their side? Or is Greg Norman hell-bent on winning whatever this fight is and says, no, I never capitulate in any way because I hate you and I want to be the dominant force in all of golf?
I would make an argument that could go both ways on that. That, look, certainly Greg Norman has not acted like a CEO. He's acted more like a Twitter troll in recent weeks. Like it's embarrassing. I mean, this is supposed to be a business, and you're supposed to be running a business, and the way he's doing it, I don't know, would lead anyone to believe that he's qualified for this job. On the other side of this, I believe that Jay Monahan, the commissioner of the PGA Tour, has been far too emotional when it comes to this. I understand this is an existential threat. I understand everything that comes to the table. But when a CEO is facing something like this, I don't think you want to see emotion. You want to see a businessman tackle things in a very rational business manner, and he hasn't been doing that. So I would argue that if coexistence is the end game here, I'm not sure if those two guys are able to do that, at least not right now, because they've made it so emotional, they've made it so personal. I don't see how either one of them get in a room at this point.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. All right, before I let you go, Rex Hoggard from the Golf Channel, there is golf that's being played. I know this was a big moment. Like, was this Will Zalatoris' star moment? Is this the guy? And I know he's had great performances at big events, but was this his moment? I know we've talked about this with a few other guys. Scotty Scheffler was having his moment. Tony Finau's been having a moment. But was this the moment that maybe he asserted himself as being – like one of the guys to beat for the next couple of years?
Yes, without a doubt. And I don't know how to quantify that. I did the winner's interview on the green of the third playoff hole, and the emotion. I mean, he couldn't get through the first answer without breaking down, and it was genuine, and I appreciated it because of what it meant to him. And look, winning was always going to be special, but I think it was how he won. That he's been. I mean, we've talked about his putting and his clutch putting, and when he gets over the 3-footers, most people just haven't been trusting him, and he hasn't given us a lot of reason to trust him. He's had opportunities and not gotten it done. To do it, on the 72nd hole, and then do it again on the first playoff hole to make a clutch putt when you absolutely had to.
Yep.
I can't imagine how rewarding that was for him.
No, it was incredible. I mean, it helps when the other guy's helping you out when you get to the third playoff hole. It helps when that's the case, but still, it counts nonetheless. Rex Hoggard, GC, on Twitter is how you follow him. Rex, is there anything else we can plug for you, my friends?
No, Rex Hoggard, GC, and then we're looking forward to getting back at it next week at the Tour Championship.
Also, hopefully, come 3 years from now, you are not in a courtroom, and instead, you are right here at Caves Valley, hanging out with us, watching the soon-to-be World Series winning Baltimore Orioles. At that point, I hope that's the case. Rex, always appreciate it, my friend. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes for us this morning.
Appreciate it. See you guys.
Rex Hoggard from the Golf Channel checking in with us. Yeah, big meeting apparently today with all the players, the PGA Tour, El Tigre flying in to be a part of it. Explosive, dramatic, but what really comes from it, nobody seems to know. And I think Rex's point is well taken. Like, it's not likely that there's going to be some sort of palace coup and they're going to carry the commissioner of the PGA Tour out and toss him on his backside today. But players want to get more organized as, there is an existential threat to the PGA Tour. There's no question about that. We made a trip. We had a field trip yesterday after the show. It was Carson Weekly's final day with us, and so we wandered over to Glory Days Grill. Man, we were getting really excited about the softball game. Unfortunately, Texas rallied and defeated Delmar, Maryland in the Little League softball championship game, which is a real bummer because we were into it. Like, we were paying attention.
Yeah.
At least Carson and I were. Griffin, I think, was watching cartoons.
I was, yeah. It was just the way the chairs were.
I made a play yesterday that might be my new favorite play of all time. So you guys know I've been talking up the opener. It's the flash fried pork belly with the Korean No. 2 sauce. But you also know how the affinity that I have for the smoky thigh wings at Glory Days Grill. So I said, well, why don't I mix these things up a little bit? And why don't I go with the Korean No. 2 sauce on the smoky thigh wings? And when I ran that by the young lady who was serving us yesterday, she said, yeah, we can do that, and you ain't going to regret it. And I did not. In fact, I did do the awkward bit. There is no point to consuming the vegetables they give you when you dip. So once I had finished all of my smoky thigh wings, there was a small pool of the No. 2 sauce still on the bottom of the tray. And so I took the carrots and the celery, and I ran them through the No. 2 sauce. They were merely a vehicle for me because it, as I said before, you want to just run your fingers through it. It's considered.
Yeah, that's a move I'm gonna have to steal for next time.
Yeah,
because I ate my veggies.
That's a huge mistake. I don't know what you're doing, dude.
You should have stopped me.
Well, I hadn't thought about it. In fairness, God, it was so. So yeah, the boys just got traditional wings with the No. 2 sauce, which is fine. It's fine. I did notice they both. Now this was the other thing I noticed. They both ordered fries. And then she asked, do you guys want some ketchup? And they both said no. And I wondered if that was because you were trying to do the play with the fries and the sauce. I wondered if that was the thought process there. And if it was, I was going to tip my hat to you for a fine thought there. If it wasn't, I mean, it's still better than... I do appreciate the fact that you're not 4 years old.
Right.
I do appreciate that. But I just feel like it would have been a better play.
It would have been.
To
it would
run
have been
the fries through the No. 2 sauce.
Yeah, I just enjoy my fries.
That's fine. That's
naked.
fine. There's nothing wrong with that, especially if they're good fries, right?
They were. Yes.
There's nothing wrong with that. I just thought that maybe you were thinking next level, and you were thinking about pairing the fries with the No. 2 sauce. The moral of the story.
I wanted to make sure I had enough of my chicken.
I understand. The moral of the story being the No. 2 sauce.
Right.
Will save you from your sins. I bathe in it. Baptize yourself in the No. 2 sauce at Glory Days Grill. Try the opener with the flash fried pork belly. It's so good. The South Carolina barbecue chicken. That's the upset of the day. Is that I didn't order that. I was so enamored with the idea of the No. 2 sauce with the smoky thigh wings. God, it's Glory Days Grill. Lobster roll, the grilled corn, the crab and lobster fries still available. The the Cracker Jack sundae. Nobody ordered that. That was a mistake, too. Nobody got dessert yesterday. But, God, I love Glory Days Grill. GloryDaysGrill.com is the website. And we had a great time just hanging out for lunch yesterday. Just went up, bellied up to the bar. Despite the fact that none of us were drinking, we got some wings. We watched some softball. It was a lovely way to spend the afternoon.
Indeed it was.
Now, back to our think tank topic today. How do we talk to our kids about Jorge Mateo? Lawrence... I believe is in TV, if I remember correctly. I believe that, he's a sports writer. That's what he is. My buddy Lawrence Barek, who's followed us for a while. Lawrence says, if the bat stays, he stays. They've already got Gunnar playing third base in the minors, and Westberg has played second base a lot. I think it's too far out to be thinking about Holiday playing shortstop. All the O's need is for Mateo to hit like 230, 240, and he's more than valuable enough. I semi-agree, Lawrence, but I'm in a tough spot. Because if that's the case, I'm trying to build your championship caliber roster, right? Like, that's what I'm trying to build. Adley Rutschman is, of course, part of that. I'm willing to believe that Gunnar Henderson is part of that. And if you're putting in Jorge Mateo as part of it, tell me the lineup elsewise Is elsewise a thing?
I think so. That word.
I
mean, I think it fits. I think it fits here.
It's other. I made elsewhere and otherwise.
Yeah.
Combine them into one, and I think we're sticking with it.
I like it.
This is like when they put chocolate and peanut butter together, and they were like, what did we do here? And the answer is they changed the world. And I believe elsewise might also change the world. Elsewise, how you putting together your championship caliber lineup? I think you could still have Cedric Mullins in a lineup like that, and maybe one of Mountcastle or Santander. I don't know that you can have both of them. That's the tricky part. If it's both, so let's just make it Mountcastle and Santander, that leaves you 3 spots in that lineup where you can try to upgrade in order to take this, and which is a bottom third of the league offense, and turn it into a more championship caliber group. So that would leave you 1 outfield spot. It would leave you a DH role that could be first base because you could just move Mountcastle. The problem is, again, this becomes the Rutschman problem. You don't really want to use DH as a spot for one of your bats because Adley Rutschman's going to have to DH a certain number of games during the course of the season. So you got to bear that in mind. That's part of the problem in trying to build this roster. And you're saying, Westberg at second base at that point? So is that a championship caliber roster?
It's tough.
I don't know that I see that. I don't know that I see that. Even if you say that left field, even if you move on from Austin Hayes and say that left field is the place where you're looking to upgrade with a bat, that you're going to try to add one more outfielder, because you could move Anthony Santander back to left field, right? Like he could play one of the 2 corner outfield spots. So you're using corner outfield as the place for you to add one more bat. So let's just, for the fun of it, right? Let's just make it Ian Happ.
Okay.
Just for funsies, right?
Still not sure.
Is that a championship caliber lineup? And I'm not saying that to be alarmist or to make Jorge Mateo the singular problem. And if the argument is, no, that's why you can't have both Mountcastle and Santander in that lineup. That's why you have to use Santander to try to get you something else. Okay, but you're not going to trade Santander straight up one-on-one for an offensive upgrade. Like, that doesn't work. So is it Santander and you don't have enough pitching depth or you'd be trading away pitching depth at this point. But is it Santander and Mateo? Is it Santander and Westberg? This goes back to why it is that I was willing to consider these types of trades. Is it Santander, Connor Norby, and something else? Does that get you that? And that's sort of my point about Jorge Mateo is, does it require that? Because then, if I move Mateo and Santander to get a real thumper, a real middle-of-the-order bat, can I put together a championship caliber lineup if it's Henderson playing shortstop, Westberg playing second base, and I can find another bat at third? And this is all hypothetical. I'm not telling you I'm in a rush to trade Jorge Mateo either. This is why I make the conversation what it is. It's not a simple yes or no to me. It's a broad, how do we talk to our kids about him? I think he's a joy to watch play the game of baseball. But I am still apprehensive. I want him to be part of the solution because I want to watch Jorge Mateo play baseball for as long as I possibly can. I really love watching Jorge Mateo play baseball. But I would love a parade more than that. And if Jorge Mateo can help me get closer to a parade, I'm inclined to listen. I'm inclined to hear it out. I think that's what Rita's alluding to when she says, look, I really like him, but is he a centerpiece? I'm not willing to go there. I'm not willing to say that. And I'm probably of the same mindset. I really like Jorge Mateo. God, every night I sit down and I get the chance to watch Jorge Mateo, I'm like, this is a good night. I might see something. I was at the ballpark the night of the double play that was just insane. He's building memories. He's building things that we're going to file away, and we might remember in a year or two. Now, in fairness, Stevie Wilkerson did the same thing. Like, let's not overstate that. We remember plays Stevie Wilkerson made, who was by no means a Major League Baseball player. I like Jorge Mateo. I'm just not sure of exactly how he fits within the context of this rebuild. We'll find out. But and by the way, I think this is the difficulty for Mike Elias too.
Right.
This, again, we go back to this wasn't supposed to be the group. Like, the group was still supposed to be coming. Like, maybe one or two of these guys could be part of the group. Now, because they're having enough success, it's more difficult to judge this. And here I am casting aside Austin Hayes, where 3 months ago Austin Hayes was the MVP of this team. Tough to do.
Yeah,
Tough to do.
I don't think you can make him a centerpiece, but I think I'm very much okay with him being, the opening day shortstop in 2023. And I know, like, Jake threw out all those shortstops, Trey Turner, Swanson, Correa, obviously. I mean, and I think that would be great, but I'd rather see us spend money elsewhere when we know we have Mateo. We know Mateo's glove isn't going to go anywhere, and we have more reinforcements in theory.
I think the problem becomes
in the minors.
You find yourself more comfortable spending money on a proven, because of the importance of shortstop. The idea of getting a proven commodity at shortstop is viewed to be so much more valuable than a proven commodity somewhere else, right? Like, a proven commodity somewhere else, that there is no backup plan, right? Like, if Carlos Correa doesn't hit 290, he can still be really consequential for your baseball team doing other things. But if you sign a corner outfielder and he's not a 280 hitter with 27 home runs, there's a limit to how consequential he can be for your baseball team. So the argument is, if you're going to spend money, you spend it on somebody who you're building yourself a backup plan, that even if it doesn't go perfectly right, they can still be helpful. They can still be a significant piece for you. Well, that's, of course, also the same as the argument that we're making for Jorge Mateo, right? That's literally what Jake Mintz said earlier. Well, if he's not that bat, he's still an elite defender. And it's important that we talk about that. I made the comparison to Ozzie Smith when we were talking about this with Jeremy Kahn yesterday, right? Like, I'm joking about it, but the metrics say he's of that ilk. Like, he's that type of good defender. Again, is that alone enough to guarantee the spot? Probably not. He's got to be more of a bat. And I think, to your point, like, am I penciling him in right now? Like, right now, as I'm building the 2023 Orioles, yes, Jorge Mateo is my starting shortstop. But if the opportunity presents itself to do something else, I don't think he's I don't think he's untouchable. I don't think he is Adley Rutschman is an untouchable centerpiece. Right? Like, this thing works based on Adley Rutschman. Jorge Mateo, I don't think is that. I think he's a guy that I'm inclined to want to see more of. But, I feel kind of similarly about Cedric Mullins. If somebody else is in love with Cedric Mullins, we'll talk. Like, everything's up for conversation at this point. Outside of Adley Rutschman. Outside of really Adley Rutschman and Grayson Rodriguez. I guess now, Gunnar Henderson probably too. But outside of that, it kind of feels like everything is still, despite the fact they're a good baseball team and despite the fact they have good players, I just don't feel so strongly committed to those guys at the moment. And Jorge Mateo, I like and I think is closer. I thought the way that Jake said it was good, which is more than anyone else, he has moved into the category of being someone that you can count on. He has done more than anybody else on this roster to present himself as a future piece. But is he guaranteed? I don't know. Continue to get me your responses. I'm enjoying the conversation. @Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter. We'll keep talking about it as the day goes on. All right. Tidbit is brought to you today by Swagger. Did you play a Swagger ticket last night?
I did. It went poorly. I'm not good at this game so far.
This is not good.
I know.
This is not good. We need you to step your game up a little bit.
I
people understand that you can
very
win
much understand
with Swagger. Playwithswagger.com/pressbox. This is the deal. Football season is coming. baseball season is going on, and you still can't bet on your phone or your computer here in the state of Maryland, which is very dumb. But it's what it is. There's not much we can do about it.
I will be playing Ryan Mountcastle again tonight. He was about one of the only ones I hit yesterday.
Oh, because it's Toronto. Yeah,
he played
correct.
Toronto.
Correct. It's a good point. You should definitely play Ryan Mountcastle against Toronto. Although, what did you play? Did you?
I think it was two total bases.
Okay, total base. Because the home run was his only hit, right? Because it was just walks after that point.
Yeah.
And the walks really screw with you because they're helpful, but they don't help on total bases. Son of a bitch. But yeah, if you played total bases, you were good because, of course, he hit the home run. And yeah, he kills the Blue Jays. It's just, I don't know how to make sense of it. He kills the Blue Jays, murders them. So, as I'm saying, you can't do it. You can't bet on your phone or on your computer, but you can play with Swagger. And when you do, you're going to feel like you're betting because you're playing player props, you're playing parlays. And what makes it better is, despite the fact that you're putting together a parlay, you don't have to have all of them hit. Now, you need to have more hit than what Griffin's been doing. You need to do better than that.
Yes, you do.
You need to have more of them hit. But it doesn't have to be all of them. You could go 3 for 4. You could go 4 for 6. You could do something like that and just build up enough points in their point system, and it's explained to you when you put your ticket in order to at least get your money back, make a little bit of money, even if you don't get the big win. Of course, if you get them all, then you could end up being a big winner with Swagger. And the best part of all of it is that they're giving you free money. You might never play with your own money. Go right now to playwithswagger.com/pressbox. You're going to get $10 free immediately. But then on top of that, they're going to match your first deposit up to $100. So you could get up to $110 free to play with on Swagger. $110. You might never, even if you lose as much as Griffin has lost, you might never play with your own money because you start winning after a few losses, and all of a sudden you're good, and you're winning money despite the fact that you never used your own money in order to do it. Which is truly remarkable. Playwithswagger.com/pressbox. We're going to do more with it in football season. We've been sort of dipping our toes in the water with baseball. I might let Griffin put together. You know what? I might let you put together a ticket for me tonight.
All right.
I might let you do that. You put together. I might overrule you, but we'll see. Playwithswagger.com/pressbox for that free money to play with. What you got?
All right, fun one for the first part of it. Xavier Curry. He debuted for the Guardians yesterday.
Sure he did.
And his name is spelled Xzavion. Xavier.
I bet that does you well in Scrabble.
Yeah. And so he became the first Major League player to have his name start with the letter X and be followed by a letter other than the letter A. And he became the very first player.
Xavier Scruggs was a baseball player. I'm not sure if there was anybody besides Xavier.
Yeah, Xavier. There's like Xander Bogaerts.
Oh yeah, sure.
So they're all like XAs. And so you do have to kind of feel for Ziomer Guacash.
Excuse me?
Yes, he's an 18-year-old player in a pitcher for the Tigers in the Tiger system. So he'll be number 2 on this list if he makes it to the majors. But he probably had a chance to be number 1, and that dream is probably crushed for him.
Probably over, yeah.
And now, secondly, so the Orioles won their 60th game yesterday, first time getting to 60 wins since 2017, and they won their 60th game in that year on August 18th against the Los Angeles Angels on a Friday night.
Oh, this was the Manny Machado walk-off Grand Slam game.
Yes. Yeah, very, very fun game.
Yes.
And so I want to know if you can name that starting lineup for me.
Manny Machado.
3 home runs in the game, 7 RBIs, including that walk-off grand slam.
It was a nice night.
It was
a nice night.
And they were that was their 60th win, and they went to 60-62. So these Orioles are ahead of those 2017 Birds.
2017 team was, and what was the midseason trade they made that year?
That wasn't Gerardo Parra, was it?
No. Oh, was that 17 or was that 15?
Oh, I think that was 15. Yeah. I remember who it was.
Okay.
I'm looking at his name.
All right, hang on a second. All right, Scope.
Yes, Jonathan Scope, batting third, playing second base. Manny was batting second.
Hardy.
J.J. Hardy was not playing shortstop on this evening.
Oh, I might never get who it was then. Adam Jones.
Yes, Adam Jones, batting fourth, playing center, a couple of base hits.
Mancini.
Yes, Trey Mancini, batting fifth.
How about
playing first base?
How about Well, I was going to say Chris Davis, but now if Mancini was playing first
no Chris
base,
Davis
then
in this lineup.
Mark Trumbo.
Yep, Trumbo batting 6th. The designated hitter also hit a home run earlier in this night.
JJ, did I say JJ Hardy?
You did say JJ Hardy. He was either at an off day.
So
I forget what this.
Oh, and he didn't play. That's the reason why I didn't put him on the list. All right, so I've got 5.
Yes, you do have 5.
Hyun-Soo Kim.
No Hyun-Soo Kim in this one.
Caleb Joseph.
Yes, behind the plate, Caleb Joseph also hit a home run in this game. Caleb Joseph batting 8th.
So I got 6.
Yes, you do. 6 of the starting.
How about the delicious eyes of Joey Rickard?
No, Joey Rickard not in the game. Not in the game.
Well, they should have been.
Maybe.
Those eyes. Man. Was that the Seth Smith season?
It was a Seth Smith season. He was not starting though. He pinch hit in the 9th inning, and got a pinch hit walk. Then he was.
How about Ryan Flaherty?
Ryan Flaherty came on a pinch run for Seth Smith, not in the starting lineup.
Okay. How about? Oh God.
Missing a left fielder. We're missing the shortstop and the right fielder.
Left field, shortstop, and right field.
So one of the outfielders, he's still on the team today.
One of the outfielders.
And he'll probably be starting tonight.
On the team today and is starting tonight.
Likely. I mean, we don't see the lineup, but likely he's been in the lineup every single day.
Santander?
Yes, Anthony Santander. He had one hit.
It's tough for me to do the math on when Santander got here.
Apparently it's 2017 at the latest.
Right field, you say?
Santander was playing right field, so we need a left fielder and our shortstop.
Left fielder and a shortstop. The shortstop was...
Let's see if he's still in the league.
The shortstop was... I'm trying to go through all the shortstops. I'm trying to go through the Iglesias and the... Beckham? Was it Tim Beckham?
Tim Beckham, batting leadoff, had 2 hits. Scored a couple of runs on those Manny home runs.
And then
he led off.
The right fielder was...
The left fielder batting 9th.
Left fielder was... I don't know. Just tell me.
It was Craig Gentry.
Craig Gentry.
You're
very bad with names. You're very, very bad with names.
I mean, the point gets across every time. And who was the starting pitcher?
You're doing this
starting
pitcher.
Stop.
You're supposed to be a broadcaster now.
You're right.
It does not work that way. Stop. Okay? Get names right.
All right.
I feel bad when I get names wrong. I don't know, but it's not. I don't try to confidently say it's okay. Like, we just try to get it right. What was it?
Starting pitcher?
I don't know. It was Ubaldo.
No, it was not. It was I'm trying to think of
Gosman.
How he got here.
Let's
see. He started with Tampa, and then he moved around a lot.
Started with Tampa and moved around a lot. I don't know. Just tell me.
Jeremy Hellickson.
Oh, I forgot Jeremy Hellickson was on. I definitely forgot about Jeremy Hellickson for sure.
Richard Blyer made an appearance out of the bullpen.
All right. Very good.
Miguel Castro. A couple of trade pieces.
All right. Tubular, brought to you today by the print issue of Press Box. This is it. The final day. This is it. Final day for you to get the Salute to Coaches issue of Press Box with John Harbaugh on the cover. Starting tomorrow, your neighborhood Royal Farms, those hundreds of locations around town, will be personally delivered by Stan the Fan Charles, the new print issue of Press Box, which features Mark Andrews on the cover. So speak now or forever hold your pee. If you want the Salute to Coaches issue, go to your neighborhood Royal Farms today, those hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box, and get it there. Here's what's coming up tonight, totally tubular-wise. Masson, Orioles, Blue Jays at 7. Dean Kramer, Alek Manoah, the pitching matchup. Masson 2, Cubs, Nationals at 7. MLB Network, Mariners, Angels at 9:30. TBS, Rays, Yankees at 7. I'm still not, I don't care. I am still not rooting for the Yankees. Stop that. Stop this nonsense. We're like, well, you should be rooting for the Yankees. No, I can acknowledge what's best.
We don't want the Rays to get hot, though.
I don't care. I'm not rooting for the Yankees. I'm not going to feel good.
It'd be great if the Angels could help us out.
The Yankees win. Yes, I would accept that. I would accept that for sure. NBC Sports Washington tonight, DC United, LAFC at 10:30. Tennis Channel for Western Southern Open includes tonight's Serena Williams. Emma Raducanu is a big one in Cincinnati. The USA Network for WWE NXT at 8. By the way, Francis Tiafoe beat Matteo Berrettini yesterday. That was a big win for him. Big win. And a fun one between Andy Murray and Stan Wawrinka, neither of whom is a threat to do something at this point, but two beloved players and great champions, and Andy Murray won that in 3 sets last night. Cincinnati's a huge tournament on the tennis calendar. It is the tune-up for the U.S. Open, so big week on the Tennis Channel. Some non-sports highlights?
Non-sports, we got new episodes of Only Murders in the Building, the penultimate episode of Season 2 here, What We Do in the Shadows, new episode, and Hard Knocks with the Detroit Lions, new episode of that. Also, your boy Bob Odenkirk, he'll be on Kimmel tonight.
To promote the thing that happened.
Yeah, I guess so.
I
would guess
somebody told me there's going to be a Nobody Part 2. I'm all in for that. That movie was outstanding.
But just be prepared when you tune into Kimmel. It's going to be guest hosted by Al Franken.
That's weird.
It is weird.
I thought Jesus from Jesus and Miro was.
Yeah, he did it last night.
So they're going to do it
every
night.
I think so. That's what they're doing for the week.
All right, very good. Thanks today to Jake Mintz. Thanks also to Rex Hoggard. We'll get that up in the greatest hits section of the tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Tomorrow, anything?
Will be Howard Griffith from Big Ten Network.
Of course, talk
Maryland
some
football.
Terps with him. That's it? Okay.
For now.
We gotta step up our game. We gotta put that into. We gotta do a better job. All right, we'll shift into focus. We'll be like, We'll be like Mike Elias this offseason.
Yes.
Thanks to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including Glory Days Grill, Royal Farms, Costas Inn, Grade 8's Memorabilia, FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Visit Howard County, the Baltimore Orioles, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Thanks to Ryan at RexBexRyan. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Tuesday evening. Go Birds. Duke sucks. Ohio State sucks too. If you are with us on audio, do nothing. If you're with us on video, give us a minute, then hit refresh. Or go back to youtube.com/PressBoxOnline. Simply the Bets is next.